I can totally relate to everything Jaja has been saying, because what you consume is usually filtered right through the lens of what the gatekeepers dish out to the world. One of the great sort of joys for me coming to this particular festival and going down to the stalls downstairs was I was seeing books that I don't get to see in Waterstones.
Yeah.
You know, I was seeing new materials like I didn't even know the stuff was out there and available, because when you go to your mainstream bookstores, it's just not in there. And that's because that particular space is curated mostly by the big publishers. But for me, growing up again in sort of like the post-colonial Zimbabwean environment, you know, when you speak about language, Jaja, we used to get caned and forced to speak in English when we went to school, and this was after independence, because that was the thing that was expected of you. This was the culture that you were supposed to somehow become whitewashed into becoming part of. And you consume this stuff uncritically until like later on in life where you're like, hang on a minute, what was that about? All right. But now as it is, I mean, the great thing is there's a lot more material out there that's available to do with sort of black writing and black culture and that kind of thing. I find sort of the internet and the availability of like self-publishing and online spaces as being pretty liberatory, if that's the right word, because you can now access certain materials that you might not otherwise find elsewhere. But I mean, more needs to be done, because whenever I speak with my peers who are also fiction writers, a common story, and this happened to me, is, you know, you send out a manuscript, someone gets back to you and says, you know what, I really like this, but we've already got a black writer on the roster. And it just doesn't happen to me. It's such a common story. It's almost like you then get the sense that black writing is a genre, which it's not. It's not a genre. There's, you know, you can be working in crime, you can be working in sci-fi, there's different aesthetic sensibilities. But when you look up at the SFF scene, which is mainly where I'm working now, that's sort of my bread and butter, and you see the books that are coming now that you otherwise might not have, like, you know, people like N.K. Jemisin that have done really well. Tendai Thompson was won the Arthur C. Clarke Award. When you look at that, you then get the sense that all this great potential was suppressed and is still suppressed, but that's the space that we are working in.
And I think to that as well, Natalie, a question for you about fans and representation and people coming up to you and saying, you know what, Natalie, I felt seen by your work, and I'm just going to share with you. When I saw Natalie backstage, I was like, hey Natalie, I love your writing, because I remember you'd written something on grief not too long ago in the Metro, and I remember reading that and feeling not only seen or that it resonated with me, but that the way in which you wrote about it in the Metro newspaper, which historically doesn't have a history of really showcasing black mixed writers, that journalistic stance was something so unique. So I would like for you to speak a little bit about what the impact has been for you, hearing people come to you and tell you, Natalie, I love your work.
Well, that's so kind, thank you. And like, obviously, as a writer, it's the best feeling in the world. I'm sure you guys know that when you get that kind of feedback. And I think the key thing that you want to do as a writer is to connect to people in that way. And I think that what you say about feeling seen, I think that's the ultimate aim in everything that I'm doing, and everything that I think a lot of writers are trying to do. It is trying to reflect a certain experience and put it out there, particularly for those who don't see it reflected very often in many spaces, particularly in mainstream spaces, to broaden that conversation out. And I think it is that kind of what I'm always after whenever I write anything, whether that's with the book or any piece of journalistic writing that I put out in the world, is that kind of nod of recognition from my readers. It's that kind of, oh wow, okay, somebody else feels something that I thought was only in my brain. And I know for me as a reader, when I feel that, whether that's in a novel or on a film or anything, if I feel that kind of spark of, you know, wow, I didn't know anybody else felt this way, or I didn't know that somebody else experienced race or identity or grief or whatever it may be in the specific way that I was feeling it, that is the most powerful kind of emotion that you can elicit in a person, and it's that sense of belonging and that sense of collective experience that I think is wildly powerful. So as a writer, having anybody to, give you that recognition of saying that they've read your work, that they like it, that it resonates with them, that is more powerful than any award, any kind of stats on your book sales, anything like that you can get. I think, and I don't know about you guys, but like, since I've been an author, everyone seems to want to just be like, how's the book doing? And you said, how's it selling? And I'm like, first of all, like, shall I ask you about your salary, or is that, are we doing that? And it's like, and that's obviously a great thing, and you want to be able to push forward in terms of the success, in terms of publishing and all of those on paper successes. But I think, for me and for many other writers, just getting those DMs, getting those messages of people sending you quotes or underlining things and sending you a picture of things that they've really, screenshotted and sent to their friends and been like, this sentence is me. That's more powerful than anything I could ever ask for as a writer. So it's the best feeling in the world, yeah.
Thank you, Natalie. Jaja, similarly for you, in terms of fans, people acknowledging your work, people coming up to you and being like, rah, like it's you. Having that response, how does that feel for you as a black man?
I want to say as a black man, let's thinking this is as a creative in general.
I want to know as a black man.
Because you know what it is here, you see the thing when we always put in the black thing, I'm kind of like, I just don't really push that too much. I believe it's just, we should be focusing on our creativity instead of the colour and white, black, Asian. I feel like we just focus on